My parents sold my house behind my back to pay for my brother's luxury vacation. And the worst part? They expected me to thank them for it. I still remember the exact moment I found out. I was standing in my parents' dining room, holding a cup of coffee that suddenly felt too heavy in my hands. My mother looked uncomfortable. My father refused to meet my eyes. And my younger brother, Ethan, sat there smiling as if he had just won the lottery. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. "Sweetheart," my mother finally said, "there's something we need to tell you." A knot formed in my stomach. I had spent years rebuilding my life after a difficult divorce. I worked long shifts, saved every extra dollar, and eventually bought a small house. It wasn't luxurious. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. Every wall, every room, every payment represented sacrifices I had made alone. That house was my security, my future, my fresh start. My brother Ethan, on the other hand, had always lived differently. While I worked overtime, he jumped from one hobby to another. While I saved money, he spent it. And somehow, whenever he got into trouble, my parents rushed to rescue him. Growing up, I tried not to resent it. I told myself families weren't perfect. I told myself favoritism only existed in my imagination. But sitting at that table, watching Ethan grin, I realized I had been lying to myself for years. My father cleared his throat. "We sold the property." I blinked. What property? Silence. Then my mother whispered the words that shattered me. "Your house." The cup slipped from my fingers. Coffee splashed across the floor. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. I stared at them, waiting for someone to laugh and tell me it was a joke. Nobody did. "You sold my house." My voice barely sounded human. "We had no choice," my father said. "No choice." I repeated. Ethan suddenly leaned forward. "It's not a big deal. You can buy another one." Another one. As if years of hard work could simply be replaced. As if my home was nothing more than furniture. I felt my chest tighten. How could you even do that? My mother looked away. My father remained silent. And that's when Ethan finally revealed the truth. The money had paid for his dream vacation. A luxury trip across Europe, first-class flights, 5-star hotels, private tour, everything he had ever wanted. My house had become his vacation fund. The room started spinning. I thought I would scream. I thought I would break down. Instead, I simply stared at them and smiled. A small, calm smile. Because hidden inside my bag was a folder. And what they didn't know was that the moment I received a strange phone call that morning, I had already started preparing. What I didn't know then was that opening that folder would change all of our lives forever. The phone call had come from a real estate attorney. At first, I assumed it was a mistake. But then he asked a question that made my blood run cold. "Did you authorize the transfer of your property?" "No," I answered immediately. The attorney paused. Then he explained something shocking. Someone had submitted documents claiming legal authority over my house. The signatures looked legitimate, but there were inconsistencies. Enough inconsistencies to trigger an investigation. That was when I started collecting every document connected to my property. Every contract, every payment, every ownership record. Everything went into a thick blue folder. The same folder now sitting quietly beside me. As my parents explained why they had sold my house, the truth became even uglier. Months earlier, Ethan had convinced them that he deserved a life-changing experience. Apparently, traveling through Europe would help him find himself. The trip cost far more than they could afford. Instead of telling him no, they searched for another solution. My solution. My house. At some point, they convinced themselves they were helping the family. Helping Ethan. Helping everyone except me. "What happens when I need a place to live?" I asked. "You can stay with us," my mother replied. The casualness of her answer hurt more than the betrayal itself. Years of sacrifice. Years of work. reduced to a spare bedroom. I left the house shortly afterward. That night I cried harder than I ever had. I looked at photographs from the day I bought my home, the day I received the keys, the day I finally believed I was building a future. And now it was gone, destroyed by the people who were supposed to protect me. But somewhere between midnight and sunrise, something changed. The pain remained, but beneath it, something stronger appeared. Determination. The next morning, I met the attorney. Together, we reviewed every document, every signature, every authorization form, every transfer record. The deeper we looked, the worse things became. Several signatures were not mine. Important legal requirements had been ignored. Critical ownership records had been misrepresented. And one name appeared repeatedly throughout the paperwork: Ethan's. The attorney looked at me carefully. You have a very strong case. For the first time in days, I felt hope. Not because I wanted revenge, because I wanted justice. The investigation moved quickly. The buyers who purchased the property learned about the legal dispute. The sale was frozen. Funds became inaccessible. Contracts were suspended. Suddenly, Ethan's dream vacation was in danger. When he called me, he sounded furious. "You're ruining everything." I laughed bitterly. "No, Ethan, you ruined everything." Then I hung up. Days later, my parents appeared at my apartment. They looked frightened. For the first time, they seemed to understand the consequences. But by then, the folder was complete, and I was finally ready to open it. A week later, we gathered in a conference room. My parents sat across from me. Ethan sat beside them. The attorney placed the blue folder on the table. The room felt silent enough to hear breathing. Then the folder opened. One by one, the documents were revealed. Ownership records, bank statements, property filings, expert signature analyses, legal reports. Every piece of evidence told the same story. The sale had never been valid. The transfer had been unauthorized. The signatures had not been properly executed, and Ethan had knowingly participated in the process. The color drained from his face. My father looked stunned. My mother started crying. For the first time, nobody had excuses. Nobody blamed misunderstandings. Nobody defended Ethan. The facts spoke for themselves. The sale was reversed. Ownership of the house returned to me. The funds connected to the transaction were frozen pending legal resolution. And Ethan's luxury vacation disappeared overnight. No first-class flights. No five-star hotels. No dream journey. Just consequences. The hardest moment came afterward. Not because I won. Because my parents finally realized what they had done. My mother looked at me with tears in her eyes. We thought we were helping him. I nodded slowly. And in the process, you destroyed me. There was no argument. No defense. Only silence. Over the following months, our relationship changed forever. I forgave them eventually. Not because they deserved it, but because carrying that anger was exhausting. Forgiveness allowed me to move forward. Trust, however, was different. Trust had to be earned again, and some wounds take longer to heal. A year later, I stood inside my house. My house, the same home they tried to take away. Sunlight streamed through the windows. Everything felt peaceful. For the first time in a long time, I felt safe. I realized something important. The greatest revenge is not destroying the people who hurt you. It is refusing to let them destroy you. My parents chose favoritism. Ethan chose selfishness. And those choices carried consequences. But I chose strength. I chose truth. And I chose to fight for myself when nobody else would. Because sometimes the people who betray you expect you to stay silent. They expect you to accept the loss. They expect you to break. But sometimes, all it takes is one folder, one truth, one moment of courage, and everything changes. Moral: never allow someone else's entitlement to erase the value of what you built. The people who truly respect you will never ask you to sacrifice your future for their convenience. And when the truth is on your side, patience can be more powerful than anger.